Federal government has shut down after President Trump and Congress failed to reach a funding deal by Wednesday's midnight deadline. Now, roughly 750,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed or fired. Democrats are demanding health care funding while Republicans refuse to negotiate. This is the third shutdown under Trump's presidency. Scripps News Deputy Political Director Joe St. George joins us now live from Capitol Hill. Joe, I guess we can't say this was a surprise.
100%, right? This was the ticking time bomb that was ticking in the background of all of the news that was happening throughout the month of September, and it exploded last night. I mean, it's been nearly 7 years since we've been here, but we are here, and there's no telling how long this shutdown will last. The one in 2018, which stretched into 2019, lasted 35 days. Going back to the late 1970s, the average shutdown is 8 days. Although, yes, I think history can be used as a bit of a barometer. It's important to know your history. But we could be dealing with a very different set of political realities here in 2025. For one, President Trump is threatening a reduction in force, mass firings of federal workers during this shutdown. There's this sense in Washington that President Trump believes he has more authority to carry out some ambition, some goals of his during this shutdown. So far, it's just a threat. That'll be the big storyline our political team will be watching all day. Does that threat actually get carried out or not? You cited a study, an analysis from the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, which said 750,000 federal workers could be furloughed. But a furlough is different than a firing, right? I mean, a firing is permanent loss of your job. A furlough is you're just off for the time being. This morning, from coast to coast, millions of federal workers are saying, am I essential? Am I not essential? What about our next paycheck? Now, the good news for federal workers is they just got paid last week, so there's some wiggle room here. The next key date to watch is October 10th. That's the next scheduled paycheck for federal workers, and right now that's not going to happen. New laws do guarantee back pay, but there's no guarantee how long it will take to get to that part of the debate. If you're just getting caught up, after all, for so many years, we talked about looming government shutdowns. For so many years, there was threats of government shutdowns, and then in the 11th hour, lawmakers came together. This is the first time, right? A lot of people may be paying attention and trying to get caught up on what exactly is causing this shutdown. I'm going to break it down real quick for you. Republicans are saying, look, let's keep the government funded at current levels, make some slight policy changes related to member security, but nothing controversial. Let's kick the can down the road to November and talk more about this at a later date. Democrats are saying, no, no, no. You need our votes, Republicans, in order to keep the government open, or in this case now, reopen the government. And that's true. Republicans can't do this by themselves. They need some Democrats to help them in the U.S. Senate. And Democrats are saying we need to have a discussion about health care. One area of health care policy that Democrats are talking about is Affordable Care Act health subsidies expiring at the end of this year. Democrats believe this will raise premiums for millions of Americans. They have leverage now. They certainly feel they have leverage now. And they're clearly executing that leverage and trying to get Republicans to extend these subsidies. For the moment, Republicans have issues with those subsidies, unwilling to give that concession to Democrats. So if you're just getting caught up, that's what this shutdown is all about. And here on Capitol Hill, both sides are blaming each other. Take a listen.
Republicans are plunging America into a shutdown, rejecting bipartisan talks, pushing a partisan bill, and risking America's health care.
The Democrat caucus here in town, in the Senate, has chosen to shut down the government over a clean, nonpartisan funding bill. That's right, a clean, nonpartisan funding bill. We didn't ask Democrats to swallow any new Republican policies.
I think we've got to stay laser focused on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because what is President Trump's thinking today, tomorrow, next week with this shutdown? No one's expecting this shutdown to be solved on day one. Is the president welcoming this fight? Is he going to try to use this to his political advantage, terminate some policies that he hinted to yesterday in the Oval Office during this shutdown? Does the president grow tired of this shutdown? Does he feel like he's getting blamed at all? Now, he told Politico yesterday that He doesn't think he's going to be blamed. He thinks Democrats are going to be blamed here. But does President Trump give at all? The off-ramp here for him is just to keep these current subsidies in place that Democrats are asking for. It's a relative easy ask compared to other shutdowns we've seen in the past. For instance, in 2013, that shutdown, Republicans wanted the Affordable Care Act repealed. Well, that was something that President Obama at the time was never going to do. This is a much smaller ask. But you ask Republicans here on Capitol Hill, again, they have issues with these subsidies. Here's what the president said yesterday about the benefits of a shutdown.
A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things.
A lot of good can come potentially from a shutdown here. The old expression on Capitol Hill is it's easier to get into a shutdown than out of one. Why? Because both sides will want to win the political game. And in doing so, and trying to accomplish that, there's going to be a lot of media press conferences throughout the day. Republicans are going to go back to the Senate floor later today and try to pass their bill out to reopen the government. They need 5 Democrats to join them. Now, important note, Holly. Yesterday, on the vote to keep the government open, the Republican bill, 3 Democrats did join Republicans to vote to keep the government open. That's noteworthy. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania was one of them. Senator Cortez Masto of Nevada was one of them. It shows you that not every Democrat in Washington is on board with this strategy of health care fight for this shutdown. So that's one of the many storylines we'll be watching on this day one of the first government shutdown in nearly 7 years, Holly.
Joe, so many questions for you, but let's start with this one. So I have heard lawmakers, Democratic lawmakers say, when questioned about perhaps firings during this shutdown, look, this is nothing new. He's been doing it. The president, his administration have been firing federal workers since January. This is just a long line in that same script of that same play. But now we also know that unions have filed a lawsuit to block any firings ahead of time. So where does that all stand, and what might we expect in that arena?
That's 100% right, because a lot of the firings have already happened, right? Elon Musk and Doge took care of some earlier this year. And what was the storyline the last several weeks? Early September, we started to hear reports out of government agencies that certain departments needed more workers because they realized they were understaffed. So this threat of terminations is unclear at this juncture. The president said yesterday, notice what he said, Democratic policies could be going out. Yes, if there's certain departments and agencies that he feels as though really needs reforms or still needs reforms, they may use this as an opportunity. But the government has a lot of responsibilities, and in many cases, Doge already took care of the low-hanging fruit. So we'll see what this threat actually ends up being. Democrats clearly are calling the president's bluff on this one. I think this is going to come down to phone calls. Who gets blamed here? There's some light polling out in the last 24 hours that shows the majority of America, or want to backtrack that. Light polling out in the last 24 hours that shows slightly more Americans are blaming Republicans than Democrats. But a good chunk of the country this morning is just waking up and realizing what this fight is all about. I mean, let's face it, Holly, how many times in recent years have we done the story of a looming government shutdown or threat of a government shutdown, and then the 11th hour, there's a deal. A lot of Americans are tuning this out until this morning, when they're now very much laser focused on tuning this in to see, okay, how is my life impacted here? Look, Social Security checks still go out. Medicare still continues, right? So for many Americans, you may not feel the impact of this shutdown right away, but if you're having trouble making a phone call to the IRS in a couple weeks or getting an appointment at a Social Security office in a couple weeks, that's when this begins to impact more Americans. Again, day one impacts are usually limited in government shutdowns. Trash isn't going to pile up at a national park because the government's been shut down for a couple hours. But come day 7, day 8, day 9, that's when it becomes much more noticeable.
Yeah, especially financially for a lot of people. If you're not getting that paycheck, You still have bills to pay, mortgage to pay, rent to pay, buying groceries. I mean, so in a week or two, this is when, you're right, it may all come to a head. And it'll be interesting to see, though, then the financial fallout and the pressure it puts on these politicians. So, all right, we have a lot of questions, but we have all morning to talk to you. So I look forward to the next time we chat. Scripps News Deputy Political Director Joe St. George for us. And who knows, in an hour, things may change. We just don't know, but we'll see you then.
This is a move in football. Good morning, Holly. We'll see you later.